If it is necessary that I should fall on the battlefield for my country, I am ready.
Imagine this. You're standing in a field, shoulder to shoulder with your comrades. You're not hiding behind a wall or crouched in a trench. Nope, you're just standing there, in plain sight. Across the field, your enemy is doing the exact same thing. Then someone yells, "Fire!" and chaos erupts. And here's the kicker. You don't duck, you don't run, you don't scream. Instead, you reload, stand your ground, and hope you're not the next guy to take a musket ball to the face. So, why? Why on earth did soldiers in the American Civil War willingly march into death traps like this? Were they insane? Suicidal? Or was something else driving them? Stick around, because the answer isn't just about tactics. It's about honor, courage, and one man's heartbreaking final letter.
That's mine.
Okay, let's start with the obvious. This wasn't Fortnite. There were no respawns, no cover systems, and certainly no victory royale if you made it out alive. In fact, if you were in the front line of a Civil War battle, your odds of surviving were about as good as a snowball's in Georgia. But they still stood there, calm, disciplined, and eerily cooperative. The reason? A little something called linear warfare. Linear warfare was all about maximizing firepower. You see, muskets back then were about as accurate as trying to hit a dartboard blindfolded. So the idea was simple. Line up a bunch of guys, fire all at once, and hope you hit something. The more guys you had shooting, the better your chances. But, of course, this strategy had one tiny flaw. If you were in the front row, you were basically a human shield for the guys behind you. Here's the real question, though. Why did soldiers agree to this? I mean, no one forced them to stand there like bowling pins waiting to get knocked down. For many, the answer lay in one word: duty. Take Major Sullivan Ballou. Before the Battle of Bull Run, he wrote what might be one of the most gut-wrenching letters of the entire war.
If it is necessary that I should fall on the battlefield for my country, I am ready. I know how strongly American civilization now leans upon the triumph of government. I am willing to lay down all my joys in this life to help maintain this government. If it is necessary that I should fall on the battlefield for my country, I am ready. I am ready. I am ready. I am ready.
Sullivan knew the odds. He wasn't naive, but he believed in something bigger than himself. For men like him, standing in that line wasn't just about strategy, it was about sacrifice, a willingness to die for an idea, the Union, freedom, honor, and, let's be honest, not wanting your buddies to think you were a coward. Oh, and let's not forget the good old-fashioned motivator, peer pressure. Imagine telling your fellow soldiers, "Nah, I think I'll just hang out in the back today." Yeah, that wouldn't fly. In the Civil War, bravery wasn't optional. Soldiers weren't just fighting for their country. They were fighting for each other. The fear of being labeled a coward, or worse, deserting your comrades, was enough to make most men hold their ground. For a moment, let's return to hear more from Sullivan's spectacular letter to his wife. Hear his thoughts about dying for a greater cause.
But, my dear wife, when I know that with my own joys, I lay down nearly all of yours, and replace them in this life with cares and sorrows, when, after having eaten for long years the bitter fruit of orphanage myself, I must offer it as their only sustenance to my dear little children. Is it weak or dishonorable, while the banner of my purpose floats calmly and proudly in the breeze, that my unbounded love for you, my darling wife and children, should struggle in fierce, though useless, contest with my love of country. I cannot describe to you my feelings on this calm summer night, when 2,000 men are sleeping around me, many of them enjoying the last, perhaps, before that of death. And I, suspicious that death is creeping behind me with his fatal dart, am communing with God, my country, and thee.
But there was also a cold, tactical reality. In the chaos of battle, discipline was everything. If soldiers broke rank and scattered, the army fell apart. Generals needed their men to stay in line, even if that line was marching straight into enemy fire. And so, soldiers were drilled over and over to follow orders without hesitation. Discipline replaced instinct. Fear gave way to routine. Before muskets, wars were all about chaos, wild charges, brutal hand-to-hand combat, and massive formations clashing in a storm of steel. But then, someone had a revolutionary idea. What if we organized this mess? The infantry line as we know it wasn't born overnight. Its origins trace back to ancient formations like the Roman maniple and the Greek phalanx, where soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder to create an impenetrable wall of shields and spears. These tight formations worked well for melee combat. But as weapons evolved, so did the need for new tactics. Enter the musket. By the late Renaissance, firearms were starting to dominate the battlefield. But muskets were clunky, slow to reload, and let's face it, about as accurate as... Oh, well, you know it. To compensate, generals realized that soldiers needed to work together, firing in volleys to unleash a wall of bullets. The Dutch military genius Maurice of Nassau perfected the infantry line during the late 16th century. He trained his men to stand in rows, fire in coordinated volleys, and reload while the next rank fired. This wasn't just innovative, it was deadly efficient, and it didn't take long for the idea to spread. During the 30 Years' War, Swedish King Gustavus Adolphus turned the infantry line into an art form. His soldiers advanced in disciplined ranks, delivering devastating musket fire that could shred less organized foes. By the 18th century, the infantry line was the gold standard of warfare. Armies across Europe were drilling their troops to march, fire, and reload in perfect unison. This formation wasn't just about firepower, it was a psychological weapon. A line of steady, disciplined soldiers advancing with muskets blazing was often enough to send enemies running. And when the Civil War erupted, American generals drew directly from these European tactics. Despite the advances in weaponry, the infantry line remained at the heart of every major battle. It was tried, tested, and, though costly, still terrifyingly effective. It wasn't just a formation. It was a symbol of discipline, courage, and the unbreakable will of men who stood together, shoulder to shoulder, against overwhelming odds. Sullivan Ballou didn't survive the First Battle of Bull Run. On July 28, 1861, just 14 days after writing his letter to Sarah, Ballou was struck by Confederate artillery and fatally wounded. He wasn't struck down in an infantry line like so many others, but was hit while on horseback, performing his duties as a major.
When my last breath escapes me on the battlefield, it will whisper your name.
His letter, penned on July 14th, became a timeless testament to his courage and devotion to both his family and the Union cause. Ballou's sacrifice and words stand as a lasting reminder of the bravery shared by all who fought, whether in the line or leading from the front. So, why did Civil War soldiers stand in line to be shot? The answer isn't just in tactics or muskets, it's in the hearts of the men who believed in something greater than themselves. And while their strategies might seem outdated today, their courage still echoes across the centuries. Want to learn more about the incredible bravery of Civil War soldiers and other fascinating insights into history? Hit the subscribe button and join us for more untold stories of history.